Our scripture reading for today is from the book of Exodus, chapter 3, verses 1 through 3. Now Moses was keeping the flock of his father-in-law, Jethro, the priest of Midian, and he led his flock to the west side of the wilderness and came to Horeb, the mountain of God. And the angel of the Lord appeared to him in a flame of fire out of the midst of a bush. He looked, and behold, the bush was burning, yet it was not consumed. And Moses said, I will turn aside to see this great sight, why the bush is not burned.
Man, it is good to be with you today. My name's Ethan. I'm one of the pastors, like Matt said earlier, over at our Norton campus. Been there for a handful of years now, and love what I get to do. I get the chance to work with young adults out there. I get the chance to work with some of our group life and things like that. But been here a couple years ago with you, I think, before the whole tent happened. So if you were here around for that, I came right after that, and it's just a joy to see you guys, privileged to be with you. I'll tell you this, what I've learned about Atlanta is y'all got a traffic problem down here. It's serious, okay? We got snow in Ohio, but y'all got a traffic problem down here. I also figured this, I should tell you, this might feel a little different to you, but I thought, I'm not wearing any flip-flops, so I'm not going to do that to you, okay? I love your pastor, David, but I can't get on board with the flip-flops down here, but I love getting the chance. He told me this one time. He said, man, if you move to Atlanta, I will shovel your drive every time it snows. I'm like, I think you're messing with me, man. Like, I don't know. But I cannot wait to kind of share with you what God's kind of been putting on my heart all week long. I'm married, been married for about 6 years now, and I've got 2 little boys, 3 and 4-year-old, Denver and Henry. They're the joy of my life. I love getting to spend time being a dad and being a husband. But let me ask you this. I just want to start by asking you this question. Have you ever done something you regretted that you tried to outrun? You ever done something you regretted you tried to outrun? Can I tell you a story? I did something I regretted real quick. I grew up in small-town Ohio, and in small-town Ohio, here's what the rule was. It was 55 if you saw no sidewalks on the road, and 55, you could assume if you saw cornfields, no sidewalks, that's a country road. You can drive 55. So I'm driving, cruising for my first day on the job. I was an intern at the Norton campus and was excited to start. I felt like God was calling me into ministry, and so I was excited to start, but I was really nervous. I was young, nervous, and so I'm scared, and I'm going, and I'm late for the first meeting, which is not a good sign, right? Like, I just wanted to be on time, wanted to show. And so I'm like, okay, I'm driving, see corn. There's no sidewalks, so I'm going not 55, but I'm running a little late, okay? So I'm driving, cruising down this road, and I can't tell you it's 9 o'clock in the morning, and this police officer comes over the hill and sees me driving past. I've never seen a cop turn around so fast, right? Like, she just flew back, turned around, pulled me over, and she comes on the window, knocks on the window. I roll it down. I'm like, good morning, officer. I said, what happened? And she said, do you know how fast you were going? And which is a terrible question. I'm like, no, I have no idea how fast I was going. She said, do you know the speed limit here? I said, no, I'm from out of town. I work at a church, right? Like, I'm trying everything to get out of this ticket. And she looked at me, and it was a female cop, which made me more nervous for some reason. I don't know why, but she looked at me and she said, I clocked you going 71 in a 35. She said, I'll see you in court in a couple weeks. I'm like, oh my gosh. And I remember in that moment, all I wanted to do was run from that moment. I remember showing up. I was still early for that meeting. I have no idea how I made it on time, like early for that meeting, walking in. And I had a choice. I had a decision to make. I could tell these guys what happened, or I could try and hide it, try to avoid it, try to run from it. I told them what happened, and I'm like, they're going to fire me for sure, right? Like, I can't be speeding 30 miles an hour over speed limit in the place I'm going to do ministry at. And they showed me lots of grace, and they said, you know what? They didn't realize this, but in 2 weeks later, we had a tragedy in our community, and I got to go into the middle school after that doing counseling for kiddos who one of their friends had passed. And I remember thinking, wow, God, I thought you were done with me. I thought there was no way you could use me, but you wanted to use me beyond even my mistakes. I wonder if you might have a regret you're trying to outrun, but maybe, just maybe where God wants to meet you. You started this series last week with Pastor David. He was kind of walking you through this, and maybe God meets you in uncertainty. And simply what I want to talk to you about is maybe God meets you in the most regrettable moments. Maybe God's trying to meet you today in the most regrettable moments. And when we have regret, it does some things in our lives. But I want to talk to you from a guy who had some regret in his life. His name's Moses. Moses was out in the desert working as a shepherd as he did every day for how long? 40 years. Same desert, same people, same dusty roads, and same smelly sheep out there every single day working, feeling like, you know what, life is just kind of ordinary. And he was having an ordinary day, but he had no idea, get this, he had no idea that he was going to encounter God on an ordinary day. That it was a day just like any other day, but that day was going to go from ordinary to extraordinary, and God meets Moses. And you know what it does? It changes Moses' life. But not only that, it changes human history. Changed human history. I want to show you, God shows up in this burning bush. Could you imagine that for a minute? Like I don't know what you think about the Bible. Maybe you're not super familiar with the Bible, and you're like, man, they had burning bushes in that day? No. Like, Moses wasn't used to seeing this. That's why he turned aside. You notice that? Like, he's like, that's kind of a strange sight. I'm not used to seeing a bush that's on fire, but it's not burning up. Like, he just stared at it for a minute. That tells me some things. He said, I will turn aside to see this great sight and why this bush is not burned. It's like I took not just notice of it, but I'm going to look a little bit longer at it. I was thinking about this. I don't know what you do when you read the Bible, but I ask myself some questions. But I was thinking, what if Moses had an iPhone? I bet you he wouldn't have saw that bush burning. Or I wonder if Moses lived in Atlanta, like he was in the desert. I bet if he lived in a city, he might not have noticed that thing. That he might have missed God in the most ordinary day because he was too busy looking down instead of looking up. That Moses, he might have been looking forward at his own day rather than looking over at what God might have had for him. That he was too busy looking just a quick glance instead of saying, you know what, I'm going to turn aside and look a little longer. I'm going to linger in this moment. I wonder if you miss God because you and I have iPhones and we live in cities. And I wonder just maybe that sometimes we're so used to looking down at a screen that we miss God in our days, that we're so busy looking forward at our plans that we miss what he wants to do, that sometimes we'll give God a quick glance, but we don't linger longer in a moment to see. See, there's a bush that's burning, and fire, here's what you can know throughout the Bible. When you see fire, oftentimes fire represents the presence of God. It represents the presence of God in a kind of holy way. And so Moses saw this bush burning, and he's like, whoa, I got to check this out. And then not only that, a little crazy, a little strange, but God speaks. God speaks in a bush, through a bush. And Moses, what it does is it do the same thing that you would do. He stops in his tracks when he hears a bush talking, right? Like I think I would too. He stops in his tracks. And it's what's known as God's presence is made manifest. It shows up in this real tangible, almost weighty, like you've never seen it before kind of way in this burning bush. And he's like, oh my gosh. He realizes that God just showed up, that this ain't just a bush, that God shows up to his people. And he had to turn aside and look at this. What was so extraordinary about this wasn't that it was a bush burning. The bush was ordinary. The dirt that he was on was ordinary. God says it's holy ground. Why does he say that? Because when the Holy One shows up to a holy or an ordinary place, it becomes a holy place. He shows up, and this was a holy place. And you know what? It struck him. He was speechless in astonishment at the wonder and majesty and power of God, the glory of him in that moment. It weighed heavy on his heart. It weighed heavy on him. I came across this earlier this week on November 23rd, 1654, an ordinary night in an ordinary house. A French philosopher and mathematician, Blaise Pascal, quote, he had a mystical encounter with God. So much so it changed his life for the next 8 years until he died, that when they found his coat jacket, they found this sewn in on the side of his coat jacket. It says this, from about 10:30 at night until midnight, fire, fire. God of Abraham, God of Isaac, God of Jacob, not of the philosophers and of the learned, certitude. He's an old guy. Conviction, joy, peace, righteousness, righteous Father, the world has not known you, but I have known you. Joy, 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 tears of joy. See, when you encounter God, there's like fire. Do you know fire is not something you believe in, it's something you experience? Do you know that? It's something you experience. You feel the heat of fire. You feel the warmth of fire. You come close to fire. It's not something you just believe in. I think sometimes we have a God that we believe in, but we've never experienced. And God, maybe in this moment, I don't know. I don't know all of your stories here, but God might want to encounter you and have an experience with you. He might want to set up a meeting with you today, and that's why you're here. Now, what does God say in this moment? He says to Moses, because Moses is like, I don't know who you are. He says, I am the God of your father, and the God of Abraham, and the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. We're going to see this in a moment, but Moses, why is that important? Is God just identified himself to Moses. Moses grew up with all the gods of Egypt. He was used to a lot of different gods. He heard about a lot of different gods, and God's like, no, I'm God. And Moses, what he does in this moment, do you know what he does? He covers his face. Do you know why? Because when you cover your face, it's not just the holiness of God. What you realize all of a sudden is he went from amazed to ashamed in a moment. Because 40 years Moses had been running from God. For 40 years he fled out of fear. He was frozen in time because of something he did as a young man we're about to see in a moment. Shame started to write his story, and shame shaped his life. He's out in the desert for 40 years. No career path, no vision for his life, not a dreamer, not a leader. Instead of growing to who God made him to become, he flaked out and he ran out. Moses lost the fire. He lost the fire in his heart. He lost the passion in his bones. And he settled for a mediocre life in Midian, is where he fled to. He's living in Midian. And I'll be honest with you, I just wonder this. It was a question I was thinking as I was reading this, is I wonder how many of us, maybe you grew up kind of in church and you had an experience with God, but you lost the fire. You lost the fire. You know, it's crazy to me that we can over-spiritualize passivity or apathy. Do you notice that? Like, we can spiritualize it. Here's how it shows up. It's like, hey, stop being so intense about God. Like, you need to chill out a little bit. You need to slow down. You're going to burn out. I'll be honest with you. I'm not really afraid of burning out. I'm afraid of not burning at all. And I see a lot of followers of Jesus that grow in their years. They had an experience with God. People told them, slow down, stop, you need to chill out. And they lost the fire. They lost the fire. And God, I think in this moment, he wanted to meet Moses and say, I'm going to bring back the fire because I'm choosing you and I want to use you to rescue my people somehow. And you know what Moses does? He does what many of us would have done. He makes some excuses. He makes some excuses. I want to show you 5 excuses Moses makes. And here's the deal. I want you to lean in because to be honest with you, I think they might be some of the excuses you and I make. It might be some of the excuses that you and I are making today. Now, I love a good excuse. I got kids. They're the best excuse. If I don't want to be late at a party, I'm like, I got to go put the kids to bed. I love that, all right? Because I'm like home by 8. Now I'm good there, all right? We don't need to see what the night has. But I love a good excuse. In fact, I went down a trail of looking up some excuses people have literally made to skip work. One of them, I just thought this was fun. I ate cat food instead of tuna, so I got a sick stomach. I'm like, all right. My llama won't stop barfing. You can use that one on Monday, okay? I accidentally got on a plane. I don't know how you do that. I flew down here. I'm like, you don't accidentally go through TSA. Like, no, right? You can use some of those. But excuses, to be honest, they're so lame. And Billy Sunday, he says this. I think this is gold. He says, an excuse is a skin of a reason, but stuffed with a lie. It's a skin of a reason. On the outside, it looks okay, but on the inside of that thing, it ain't real. It's a lie that you and I tell ourselves. He makes 5 of them. I want you to see it. He says this. But Moses said to God, he experiences God in this bush. He says, who am I? Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the children of Israel, God's people, out of slavery in Egypt? Who am I? God, you should know better than anybody that I'm nobody. That's what Moses is saying. You should know that I already tried to deliver your people when I was younger. 40 years back, Moses tried to do this already. It didn't go well for him. If you're familiar at all with the story, he grows up, he's a Hebrew. He's got Hebrew blood in his body. But he grows up in the prince's palace of Egypt. And as he's growing up in Egypt, he's too much of an Egyptian to be a Hebrew. And he's too much of a Hebrew to really be an Egyptian, so he doesn't fit in at all. But he's raised in luxury and privilege, and one morning he's out looking over the balcony, and he's looking at God's people, his own blood, maybe some of his relatives, that are sweating, bleeding, and suffering on behalf of his benefit. And he's seeing Egyptians just treating them brutally and harshly. One guy's just whipping this other guy. An Egyptian, slave driving God's people. And something went off in Moses. Something cracked in Moses. It exploded in fire and anger. And you know what Moses does? He goes to that Egyptian and he murders him. He murders him. And he thinks, you know what? Now I'm Moses the hero. The Hebrews are going to want me back. And the Hebrews, they look at Moses and they're like, oh my gosh, are you going to do what you did to him to us? Because you can do the right thing in the wrong way. Did you know that? That Moses, he tried. So what'd he do? He regretted it instantly. You know what he did the next day? He ran off and he tried to reinvent himself in a new world. And you can try and outrun your shame, but it won't outrun you. You can't outrun it. Because as soon as he encounters God, the first excuse that goes through Moses' mind is this: maybe I'm not good enough. It's the same excuse some of you are asking. Maybe I'm not good enough. God, I got a past, I got a history, my sin's too great. And shame spoke over Moses' life. He was not Moses the hero, he was Moses the murderer. And shame spoke that over his story. He was a failed and forgotten old man. And shame asks this question always, it asks, who am I and who are you? It's the two questions Moses asks. When you don't know where you stand with somebody, I got two boys. When they do something wrong, it's like they look at me and they know I'm upset. And they look at me and they don't know who they are and they don't know who I am right there in that moment. And Moses forgot who he was. And so he gave up on himself, settled for life in Midian. But God didn't give up on him. 40 years. 40 years. He was waiting to meet with Moses. And then what happens, God answers Moses' excuse by saying simply this: Moses, I know you're not good enough, but I will be with you. And this shall be a sign for you that I have sent you. When you have brought the people out of Egypt, you shall serve your God on this very mountain. God's like, I know you've been running from me, Moses. You've been running for a long, long time. And you thought I was running from you. But I haven't been running from you. I've been trying to run to you. I've been trying to get a hold of you. That your timing way back there wasn't my timing now. And I have a meeting. I have something I want to tell you right now. You tried to rush in and save the day. But you did the right thing in the wrong way. And I want to rescue my people, not with Moses as the hero. I need Moses who's empty, broken, and humbled. I need a Moses who's matured over 40 years. I need a Moses who's desperate for me to work. Moses, you're ready. You know, I was thinking about this. My dad, when he taught me how to mow the grass in middle school, the way he taught me was he said this, I'll never forget it. He said, mow the grass really short, makes the weeds look like grass. Did anybody else's dad tell him that? Like that? I'm like, okay, that's really great advice. So I like my grass real short, okay? Makes the weeds look like grass. But here's the deal, that's great advice for mowing. It's terrible advice for life. Many of us, we just try and mow over our past so we don't see the weeds. And God's like, no, I need to spend 40 years in the desert with you because I got weeds of arrogance I got to pull up from your heart, Moses. And I got to plant new seeds of humility, patience, grace, maturity, and wisdom. There's a principle here that I don't want us to miss. That Moses feels useless in front of God. And when you feel useless, maybe is when you're most useful to God. That when you're self-appointed, Moses tried to do it all by himself. he was not God anointed. And when you somehow are at the end of yourself, you might be at the beginning of God. See, Moses, God had to work in him before he could work through him. And so he said, I've got a call on your life, Moses. I'm going to need you. You're not going to be able to do it. You're not good enough, I know. But I'm going to need you to rely on me and rely on my grace, not your performance. It's never been about how good you are, Moses. It's about how good I am. It's never been about that. Moses had to run, and so he thought he was running from God when God the whole time wasn't chasing him down, but was chasing to get a hold of him because he had a message of grace and one of forgiveness. Well, then Moses comes up with another excuse. He says to God, he said, if I come to the people of Israel and say to them, the God of your fathers has sent me to you, then what if they ask me, what's his name? What shall I say to them? This is the question we all hate. What shall I say? What am I going to say to them? What if they know something I don't know the answer to? So Moses, he's like, maybe I'm not smart enough, God. That's all it is. Maybe I'm not the smart enough one. I don't know all the answers. I don't have all the answers to life. I'm not all that clever. I'm not all that wise. I'm a blue-collar shepherd. I don't have enough classes, degrees, read enough books to do what it is that you're asking me to do. I'm not qualified. I can't do it. And God wanted him to know something, that God doesn't call the qualified. He qualifies the called. And God called Moses and he said, we got to get you back in the game. Shame took you out of the game. We got to get you back into the game. And I know that you're not all that smart enough, but we're going to equip you on the field in the middle of the game. That's how I do my best coaching, not off on the sidelines. Moses, God answers him and he says, here's the answer to you not being smart enough. I am who I am. He gives his name. You could do a whole series on it, but he says, I am who I am. Say this to the people of Israel. I am has sent you. God answers, I am the one who is eternal. I am the one who knows all when you don't know it all. I am completely self-sufficient and self-existing one, even when you cannot exist yourself. I am the true God against all the false gods of Egypt. I am the one who never burns out and is always consistent and faithful, even when you're unfaithful. I am the all-powerful one when you have no power. I am the one who knows the past that you have and holds the present right now, and I know the future that I have for you. I'm the glorious and the holy one. I'm the Alpha, the Omega, the beginning and the end. I am the Lord of lords, the King of kings. I'm the one who never worries, Moses. I'm never panicked, and I'm never scared. Nothing is ever out of my control. Moses, you're not, but I am. See, Corrie ten Boom, who was familiar with concentration camps because she went to one, she said this: you never have to be afraid to trust an unknown future to a known God. Moses kind of sitting there, and he's thinking to himself, well, what do I say next? He's in a conversation with God. He says, but behold, I love how he sounds like holy in that moment, like, behold, God, they won't believe me. They're not going to believe me. They're not going to listen to my voice. For they will say, the Lord did not appear to you. Now, what's Moses saying? I think this is the way I wrote it. Maybe I'm not cool enough. That maybe Moses is like, you know what, God, I'm too much of an Egyptian to look like a Hebrew to them. They're not going to trust me. They're going to look at me and go, I'm not cool enough. He was afraid. He was worried about what other people thought of him. He thought, he played the what if game. What if they look at me and I'm not what they were expecting? What if they look at me and they laugh at me, or worse, they just look away? What if I show up and I don't look like what they were hoping for? What if, God, they question what you called me to, and what if they're right? What if they're right about me, God, and you're wrong? See, Moses was insecure because he was way more concerned in that moment about pleasing people. Pleasing people. It's a struggle some of you have today. That we get so focused on the voices of other people's opinions. If you're young in this room, man, I love you. I'm glad. But can I tell you something? Social media in so many ways, it's just the voices and opinions of others. And you're so dialed into the voices and opinions of others, what it's done is it's drowned out the call of God on your life. Right? And so listen, Listen, Galatians, you can get a tattoo of this or something, but Galatians 1:6 says this, for am I now seeking the approval of man or of people or of God? Or am I trying to please man? Because if I were still trying to please man, I couldn't be a servant of Christ. It drowns out God's call on you because you get so obsessed about the approval, the attention, the admiration of other people rather than the one of heaven. And let me tell you, you'll never get enough attention on earth to fill your heart because it was made for the attention of heaven. It was made for the attention of heaven. When I'm not confident of God's love for me, what I'll do is I'll seek the love of others. You were hoping this, but I got Janis Joplin up here, okay? Janis Joplin, who's a rock singer in the 60s, she said this, on stage, I make love to 25,000 different people. Then I go home alone. Can I tell you, she died at 27 years old due to a heroin overdose because she was looking for the love that the world had to offer, but didn't realize that she needed the love that only heaven could offer to fill her heart. See, he's making the excuse, and God's like, no, Moses, you don't need the attention of them. You need me. And then God gives him something else. He says, Moses, what's in your hand? And he just said, a staff. He said, a staff. God, I got a staff in my hand because I'm a shepherd. I'm not a deliverer. It's not a sword. It's nothing like that. God says to him, he says, throw it on the ground. So he threw it on the ground, and it became a serpent. Moses ran from it. I'd run from it too, to be honest with you. But the Lord said to Moses, put your hand and catch it by the tail. So he put his hand, caught it by the tail, and it became a staff in his hand. Whatever is in your hand, placed into the hands of God, can become a powerful tool. Whatever is in your hand, placed in the hands of God, can become a powerful tool. David had a slingshot and some pebbles, and it became a giant slayer for him. Samson had a jawbone of a donkey, which is a pretty worthless thing. That wouldn't have been the weapon of battle I would have picked. But in God's hands, placed in his hands, became a weapon of freedom for him. You have no idea. God might have put something in your hands that you have no idea the power of when it's placed in his hands. Can I give you an example? You might have a pen in your hand because you're a writer, and placed in the power of God's hands, you could write in ways that could encourage the world in no other way. You might be like, all I do is I work at an office, man. I got a keyboard in my hand. That's what I do. I just do a desk job. But in the hands of God, you can become the emails of encouragement all throughout the office. You might have a hammer in your hand because you're a handyman or tradesman, but you can, for the glory of God, you can build decks and you can build houses to the glory of God and for the benefit of other people. You could begin praying over the things that you build in some way. God, would they somehow see the beauty and power of you in just a simple deck that I'm building. You could have a phone in your hand because you could be a secretary or an administrative assistant of some kind, and you could have literally the voice of God that you're speaking over the phone to other people into their lives of encouragement. Maybe you got charts or algorithms in your hand because you're a banker. You're going to have to do some of the application. That's not my element, okay? But you have no idea what is in your hand, how it could be used. Because in the hand, Moses, all he had was a stick. But in the hand of God, it became the rod of God, used to free God's people. Became a powerful tool. Moses, he gives kind of one of his last excuses. He says, oh, Lord, I'm not eloquent, either in my past or since you have spoken to your servant, but I'm slow of speech and of tongue. And he's simply saying, maybe I'm not gifted enough. Maybe I'm not gifted enough. I don't have natural talents, abilities, or skills to go where you're calling me to go. I'm the wrong guy. I'm the wrong guy for the job. I sound like Porky the pig, right? Like maybe Moses had a stutter. I don't know. Or maybe he was just really socially awkward because he'd been out in the field talking to sheep for 40 years. I don't know. But he's saying to God, he's like, I'm not charismatic. I'm not a people person. I'm not a good communicator. I'm not gifted. I have nothing to offer. And look at what God says to him. He says, who has made man's mouth? Who makes him mute or deaf or seen or blind? Is it not I, the Lord? Now therefore go, and I will be with your mouth and teach you what you shall speak. God simply answers Moses and he says, I know you feel inadequate for this. I know you feel like your natural abilities are lacking, but I'm the creator and I am sovereign. I've made everything. Nothing shocks me. You feel like you're unable, incompetent, you have challenges, or maybe you even have disabilities. And God's like, I made you. And what if whatever setback or challenge you have, God wanted to show off for his glory? Somehow, I wonder if God has a way of showing himself off in our setbacks, in our challenges. Can I tell you, we live in a sin-scarred world where disabilities, blindness, deafness, brokenness of our bodies is a real thing. And I want you to know you have a God who knows, you have a God who sees you, and you have a God who can even use your handicaps to help other people to see him in the world in a unique way. Moses says at the end of it, he's given all his excuses, and God just knocks him down like whack-a-mole. And he's just like, pardon your servant. Oh, Lord, please send somebody else. Send someone else. I love that he says please, because it just tells me he's politely declining. He's politely declining because maybe there's somebody better. Maybe there's somebody better, God. There's got to be somebody better than me. And maybe, God, just maybe I'm not the one who wants to go. Did you ever think of that? I'm living an okay life in Midian. I got a family now. I got married. I got a decent job and a home, and I don't have many worries in life. I'm just comfortable here. Why don't I stay where I'm at? You know what's fascinating? God's response. I want you to see this. This wouldn't have been the message I would have picked to give you guys today, but this is what David told me to talk on. Watch this. It says this, that the Lord's response then, the anger of the Lord was kindled against Moses. Now, I don't like to think of an angry God, and I'm sure you don't either. Was he angry at Moses? I don't really think so. I think he was angry at the excuses. I think he was angry at the excuses. Why? Because Moses was making the excuses? No. I think he was angry at the excuses because Moses didn't realize what was holding him back was an excuse. It's an excuse. Jesus gives a parable where some people make some excuses. And Jesus has a similar response. On the surface, they look all right, but Luke 14, a certain man was preparing a great banquet. He's telling this story. He invites many guests, and at the time of the banquet, he sent his servant to come and tell those who had already been invited, come, for everything's now ready. We got the barbecue, we got the party, we got the music. It's all ready to go. But they all alike began to make excuses. The first said, I just bought a field, and I got to go see it. Please excuse me. Another said, I just bought 5 yoke of oxen and I got to try them out. Please excuse me. Still another said, I just got married, so I can't come. Wife won't let me. The servant came back, reported to his master, and the owner of the house became angry. Angry. Do you notice they all politely excuse themselves from the party? They politely excuse themselves from the party. Here's what I want you to notice. They don't hate the host. They like the host. They're okay with the host. They don't hate the host. They just excuse themselves. They're not saying, I won't ever come. They're just saying, I can't come right now. I got fields to worry about, a family, and a future to take care of, God. Did you know most people don't hate God? Most people don't hate God. Lean in. What's Jesus saying? He's saying most people don't hate God. Most people politely excuse themselves from a relationship with me. Most people politely excuse themselves from the call that I have on their life. Can you look at their excuses for just a minute? Look at their excuses. He's like, I just bought a field. I need to go look at it. Now, if you made that excuse for a piece of property you just bought, like, could you imagine? You go look at 12 acres, a beautiful home, and you're like, I'm not going to look through it. I'm just going to buy it. You're like, you don't make purchases that big. It's an excuse. It's flimsy. He's like, the next guy goes, well, I just bought 5 oxen. I got to go try them out. Could you imagine buying a truck before you try it? You're going to test drive that thing before you buy that thing. That's a big purchase. The last guy, sure enough, he made a great excuse, right? He's getting married. It's the best of the 3 for sure. But But can I just see, did you notice they had already been invited to the party? They already been invited. So save the dates already went out, and this dude forgot when he was going to get married. Now, I know something about marriage, not a lot, but I know a little bit. You don't forget your anniversary, right? Like, you don't forget your wedding day, especially your first one. That's tough. And he's like, I had forgotten that I just got married. Worse than that, God, like, the party didn't say, like, it probably had a +1. Like, bring your wife to the party, man. This is going to be an incredible party, and you're missing out, and she's missing out. All of their excuses are empty. And so are yours. So are mine. Because an excuse, all it is it's a reason stuffed with a lie. And God gets angry at excuses. He gets angry because people miss out on the party. He gets angry because people miss out on the call. He gets angry because your life could be frozen in 40 years of shame. And he gets angry at your excuses because it causes prolonged, unnecessary suffering for other people. Please hear me. I caught this at the end. I'm like, man, I got to share this right before the burning bush. Right before the burning bush. God, it says this in Exodus 2, the people of Israel groaned because of their slavery, and they cried out for help. Their cry for rescue from slavery came up to God, and God heard. God hears your groaning this morning. And God remembered his covenant with Abraham, with Isaac, and with Jacob. God saw his people of Israel, and God knew that something had to be done. God hears the cries of his people in a world that is unjust. And God gets angry at your excuses. Why? Because injustice happens when you make excuses. Injustice happens when you make excuses. Can I ask you a question? God gets angry at excuses. Do you get angry at yours? Do you get angry at your excuses? It's something we got to see. Because maybe, just maybe, you need to get angry because your anger will cause you to action. That anger tells me what I love. If you show up to my house and you try to hurt my kids, I'm going to get angry. Why? Because I'm mean? No. I love my kids. I love my kids. And God's like, Moses, I need you to get angry. You've gotten wimpy being out in the fields hanging out with sheep. I need you to get angry. Why, Moses? Because my people are in pain. They're suffering. The world needs you to step up and step in right now. And they're enslaved. Don't you care? Don't you care? There's a world dying, enslaved to sin. But God, I made a mediocre life in Midian. Why would I want to leave that? Why would I want to get off the couch to go where it is that you're calling me? That seems uncomfortable, and it's evil in Egypt, and why would I go out there? Get this. Because God did that for you. That's why. That's why. God did that for you. That Jesus Christ is the true Moses. He's the true Moses. That Jesus left the luxury and privilege of heaven to come and get you. That Jesus didn't make excuses, but he needed to save you. That Jesus got so angry at the evil and the sin and Satan in this world that he had to do something about it. It caused him to move to action. He took action on the cross to offer forgiveness so you wouldn't try to outrun your regret anymore, but that you could come, be forgiven, and called into so much more. He doesn't just rescue you from something, he rescues you to something. Can I tell you, maybe some of you in here, I don't know, God's been working and Jesus is trying to meet you this morning, and you thought you had to outrun your regret and outrun your shame, and Jesus is like, hey, I've not been trying to chase you down. I've been wanting to meet with you, to talk to you, to go, I want to offer forgiveness. But I don't want just forgiveness. I want to have a relationship with you. That God's trying to meet you this morning, and he's trying to get a hold of you. But not only that, I think some of us, if we're honest, we've met with God. We have a relationship with him. But I think a lot of us, God might be trying to meet with you, to say, hey, I didn't just choose you to sit back, but I want to use you. I want to use you. The harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. So pray that there'd be workers. What's your excuse this morning? Do you resonate with any of Moses's? Not good enough? Smart, gifted, cool enough? Or do you just think somebody else is going to step up? Can I tell you 3 things just real fast? Then we'll close and kind of respond in some worship. But maybe ignoring injustice is inexcusable. Maybe ignoring injustice is inexcusable, that God's trying to get you to somehow stop normalizing what he sees as traumatizing to our world. He wants you to see it, and he wants your heart to break for what his heart breaks for, and you need to get angry at injustice so you can act in compassion. But not only that, maybe your insecurities are irrational. Do you know the God of heaven made you? Like everything you're insecure about, he's like, I made him that way. Like, God, I wish you would have made me a little taller. But he's like, I made you that way. Maybe your insecurity is actually the thing that could have the greatest impact for me, Ethan. Did you ever think of that? Not only that, but maybe your inadequacies, your insufficiencies are exactly what God uses to show off his glory. Paul says, my grace, maybe my grace is sufficient for you, and my power is made perfect in your weakness. In your weakness. God has more power in him than you have weakness in you. And God has more grace in him than you have sin in you. It's time to stop making excuses. What I'd love to do is I'd love to kind of close our time in prayer. I'm going to invite the team up. And as they make their way on up to kind of lead us into worship, I'd love to just kind of pray over you guys. It's been a joy being with you guys. I'd love the chance to meet you after service today. But I hope that simply not just hearing a story from Moses wouldn't just be like, oh, Moses and the burning bush, we got it. But I hope maybe there's an excuse you've been making that God's trying to get a hold of you. And so, God, I pray, as we take this moment to respond in worship, I just trust this, that your Spirit is speaking. That, God, you see our excuses, you know our inadequacies, you know our insecurities and our weaknesses. And, God, I just trust that you want to use us, that you somehow want to meet us. Father, I know this. In a room this size, Lord, there's some of us in here that we've been living in shame. And we've kind of been frozen in time, so to speak. We've been trying to outrun our regret. We've been trying to forget our past. And Lord, I just pray this. I pray somehow that you would meet with us today in a way that it would come right up against that shame. It would come right up against that sin. It would come right up against our past. Not in a way of anger towards us, but in a way of grace and love and forgiveness. And God, I pray that no matter what we've done in our past, that God, you would invite us in to being a part of your story, a part of your mission. I pray all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.